All right. Good evening, folks. I've got 6 o'clock by my clocks. Welcome to our December 7th, 2023 Board of Aldermen meeting. If you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We have a quorum.
Right now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a quorum. We haven't taken roll yet, have we?
No.
Now we'll call the meeting to order.
Welcome.
Thanks.
All right, folks, let's do a roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen?
Here.
Alderman Rose?
Here.
Alderman Ross?
Here.
Alderman Hoffman?
Here.
Alderman Schuman? Alderman Rucker? Mayor Harmison?
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. We're going to start with the citizens' communications. We do not have any from the public, but for those here in person, this is the time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and the board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending via online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor and the board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input and feedback from the public. Is there anyone here in person who would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the approval of consent agenda. If the board so desires, the consent agenda may be approved in a single motion. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes from the Alderman meeting of November 16, 2023 and the bills list of December 7th, 2023? If we do not have any comments or questions or corrections, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved. Passed. All right, we only have 2 items on unfinished business. First is Bill 23-83, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Don Sneeders Excavating for the Bluff Drive Shoulder Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $146,585. This is the second reading. Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you need me to.
All right, any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call, please.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman? Alderman Rucker?
All right, second reading, Bill 23-83 passes. Next, we'll move on to Bill 23-84, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Section 110.110, providing for the regular Board of Aldermen meetings to begin on the hour of 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Thursday of each month. This is the second reading. Do I have any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman? Alderman Rucker?
All right, second reading passes, and just FYI, this will begin the first meeting in January 2024, 5:30, the first Thursday. All right, moving on to new business, and unless the board has any objection, we do have Mark Spikerman and the developer out here from Lake Oasis, and if you don't mind, I'd like to do Bill C, 23-85 first, unless we have any objections from the board. All right, seeing none, we're going to go on to item number C. Is Bill 23-85. It's an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving extension of time to acquire certain property under the redevelopment agreement between the City of Osage Beach, Missouri and Lakeport Village LLC. First reading. City Attorney Cole Bradbury, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I think the request has been pretty well laid out in the blue sheet for you, but as you'll recall, the redevelopment agreement on this matter gave the developer a deadline of December 31st of this year to acquire all the timeshare units at Lakewood Resort. The developer has been diligently working on that. We've had, Gina and I have had, a dozen conference calls on this since then. And at every single time we've asked for an update, the number of units acquired has increased. There have been numerous tangible signs of progress. And there's no question, based on the activity we're seeing, that the developers put a significant amount of time and resources into meeting this deadline. Unfortunately, there have been some factors that I feel are beyond the developer's control that have slowed the process. Even though we are headed in the right direction, it's clear that they're going to need some more time to meet their obligations under that agreement. The agreement does provide that the board can extend the deadline, and the developer has so requested, and this ordinance will will provide them a 6-month extension as requested, and staff does recommend approval.
All right, comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
I've got a few regarding the procedural parts of this. Shouldn't this have been something that's initiated through our TIF commission first before it comes to the board?
This is not a TIF commission matter. It only goes back to the TIF commission if it's a material change in the plan, the entire overall project. This is simply a change in a single clause in the redevelopment agreement, and in fact, the redevelopment agreement specifically authorizes this vote.
Okay.
So we're not even changing the agreement, we're doing something authorized by the agreement.
All right, just wanted to clarify.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Alderman Hoffman.
Is there any limit to how many extensions can be given?
The limit would be what 4 members of the Board of Aldermen will vote for.
But just us, there isn't any state legislation saying that we can't do more than 2 or 3?
If we wanted to give them an extension until the year 3023, we could. I wouldn't advise it, but
That seems successive.
it's whatever's up to your imagination.
Okay, one last question. Do you know where the developer is percentage-wise on?
Okay, I'll let him answer that.
All right.
Good evening. It's good to be back in front of you guys. Thanks for having me. So we sent you a letter November 22nd that kind of laid out where we were, but in just those 2 weeks, we've made even more significant progress. So as a reminder, there is right at 1,100 unit weeks that are owned by individuals. Of those 1,100, I now own 189 of them as of today, with an additional 166 in escrow and 76 pending contract that have agreed to. So that would bring in my total to 431, which is right at 40% of the outstanding units. To date, we've contacted 822 week owners, and we've only had 14 of those people tell us absolutely no. So 1.7% of the people had said no. So the ones that didn't agree to a contract or whatever are still, I would say, negotiating or just haven't committed to selling yet. But we're right at 40%, which is 431 units. I have another 40 closings on December 15th here this next week. And in the last 2 weeks, I've closed on 66 weeks. And we've been in contact with 60 new owners in just the last 2 weeks. As laid out in the update letter on November 22nd, there were a lot of roadblocks put in our way by the board that we had to go through, legal processes to get cleared out. Most of that was cleared out sometime in the middle of October. So we were kind of handcuffed there for, I don't know, a solid 6 months of not being able to do anything. But since then, we've made tremendous progress. So as of today, I'd say we own or control about 40% of the units and have really accelerated the pace, like I said, with 66 closings in just the last 2 weeks and another 40 here on the 15th.
Excellent, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tegethoff. Any other comments from the board or questions? Seeing Alderman Rose.
I would just like to make a comment to Jeff, Takeoff Development and Brinkman and Thomas Construction. I live on Jeffries, and there's a lot of heavy equipment that goes up and down that road, carrying a lot of dirt up on Jeffries. But you know, by the end of the day, they're out there cleaning it off. And I just kudos. We don't see that very often, and I just want to thank you very much.
All right, very good, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading? Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading is carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, now we're going to move back to item A of new business. It's a public hearing. It's the City of Osage Beach fiscal year 2024 operating budget. Total proposed budget expenditures for fiscal year 2024 are $47,732.18. City Administrator Gina Woods, please.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. This first piece is just the public hearing to give the public time to comment. I think we are planning to have an additional public hearing should changes with the second reading or the future readings at the budget estimated to happen at the next meeting, the last meeting of the year. So I won't go into details yet on my budget for summary, but as the mayor said, we're about a $47.7 million budget for 2024, and the details are outlined in the draft.
All right, and just for clarification, we are going to have the first reading next, and that's where the board will be able to get into the nuts and bolts of things. At this point in time, is there anybody here from the public who would like to address the board? If not the board, we can answer all our questions during the next section. All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion closed.
Alderman Ross. Do I have a second? Alderman Rose. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Public hearing is closed. Now, we're going to move into Bill 23-90, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, adopting an annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024, and appropriate funds pursuant to thereto. First reading. Again, City Administrator Gina Woods.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. So the expenses are outlined per a summary per the budget draft that's in your packet and available online. In general, and I'm not going to restate all my words here, but for each fund, general fund did net an unbalance of about $185,000 once the specific changes from the workshop. So with that, there were a couple adjustments on funding of 2 of the 4 positions. As I noted in there, it's requesting to be considered at a later date, or other side of that is provide direction on how it can be funded. Slight modification to the fund reserves was also made just to do the balance of the fund, but that was less than a $50,000 or around a $50,000 mark. When it comes to the sewer fund, there were some changes in the sewer fund and it netted a decrease needed from the CIT transfer for subsidy. So that was a positive, having a positive cash effect on both the CIT and the water fund. As you recall, draft 1 had a transfer amount from water to sewer. Basically, sewer was going to owe water a fund. So that had a positive impact on that. Also, changes in the ambulance fund netted a slight decrease also needed from general fund subsidies, so that was also positive. Changes in both the airport funds netted also a slight decrease in transfers needed from the transportation fund. So those kind of a summary of how each of your funds changed. I'll be glad to have answer any specific questions on line items. On that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or entertain further motions or discussions on changes that you'd like to see in draft 2.
All right, and anticipating a lengthy discussion on this, if you would, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'm assuming we're going to have some discussion. So if If you would raise your hand, call on you, and then we'll try to keep it as organized as possible. So with that being said, comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
I'll go first and give Justin some time. Gina, can you please clarify on the retirement for 2024 on how that is a $200,000 increase from actual projected year end for 2023? I know we were increasing the match,
Yes.
but that seems exorbitantly high.
Well, when I forecasted the budget, so the board did agree to increase the match to up to 3%, where currently it's at 1%. We have over 80% of employees participating in the 1%. So I was probably very optimistic that up to, 90 to 100% of employees would participate in that. It's better to budget that everybody will participate, increase it in some form or fashion, but likely the chance of everybody utilizing up to 3%, it could happen. I hope it does, because this is a great opportunity for employees. But when I budgeted at the most liberal aspect that everybody will participate. So that was your increase.
That clarifies it. I was
Okay.
just concerned that it's a 45% increase, 23 to 24.
Well,
projected.
you're tripling, 1% to,
Yeah.
I guess you're, tripling the other.
Can I ask a question on that subject?
Alderman Ross.
Is that 200,000 just the incremental of it?
No, that would be the total.
So whenever we do raises or whenever we add positions, that also affects that number too?
So, correct, that's a very
Okay.
good point, Alderman Ross. So also included in the budget is the annual merit increases, which are dictated by ordinance, and addition of premium for employees at 4.25%. So I did do a calculation based on annual reviews. So what we budget in 2024 with the merit and premium increases, that then also on top of that is your retirement and your FICA. So you'll see a change in that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other comments or questions? Alderman Hoffman.
Thank you. So I'm just going to lay out the first thing I have a problem with, or something I think needs to be taken out of the budget. I only have 3 or 4 that I would like to discuss, but the first one is the parking lot at the park. It's a $600,000 parking lot. I think $350,000, about that amount, comes from general, correct? And then the rest of it out of CIT. I don't feel that we use that enough. I don't think there's enough justification of traffic and events down there to warrant spending $600,000 in a parking lot. Also, we're about to do an impact study. The impact study could come back saying that it should be used at the soccer field, and then we just put down $600,000 worth of asphalt. I'm not saying that next year or the year after, that's not going to be the best usage of that land. I think that may well be true, especially if we're doing Ballparks of America, we're having big soccer events. But for now, I think that that's something that could go away. And I guess I ask the other aldermen if you have any opinions on that matter.
Any comments on Alderman yes, Alderman Osteen.
Just comment to clarify some of what Justin's stating. The board, as part of the master plan for the parks, agreed that yes, obviously with the improved park facilities, options, expansions, et cetera, that parking lot would be required, but it's kind of putting the cart before the horse in the fact that we are trying to, in this year, put in the parking lot for the increased traffic we're seeing that is not necessarily going to be part of this year, because it all goes back to when we're going to complete all these projects in the master plan for the park. So I think Justin stating that we necessarily aren't wanting to still complete that part of the plan for the parks. It's just, once again, it doesn't seem feasible or smart that we put that in when basically we still don't have guarantees or timelines on when all this master plan and when there's going to be increased needs for parking facilities there in this year. Once again, going back to the crystal ball, is we're thinking, oh, let's put in this parking lot for all these new improvements we're doing, but let's wait. I'm thinking, let's wait till we get those improvements done before we spend $600,000 on the parking lot for those. That's just kind of clarify, and it's some things Justin and I talked about.
All right, Alderman Rose.
I concur totally. Until we get some heavy traffic going down there for whatever's going to be, people are going to be participating, whether it's pickleball or soccer or whatever we finally get in there. But $600,000 right off the bat, I think is exorbitant. I know that we talked about with our master plan for the park of wanting some more playground equipment, which we desperately need, and a splash pool, whatever you call it, which we talked about doing, and basically laying out where it'll be more conducive for families to come in and enjoy picnic tables around or whatever, to just make it as more of a park atmosphere. But maybe spend half of it this year and just wait and see what's, how we develop and how we can put and more progress in there to demand more traffic. But I'm all for doing things, but I just think that big hunk right now is a little bit too much.
Any other comments or questions? Alderman Schuman.
I'm in agreement as well until we have an absolute finalized, this is what our park is going to look like. I don't agree that we should be putting in the parking lot yet, because what's to say we put in that parking lot and then something changes and then we have to rip that up based on in a year whenever we decide, oh wait, no, we're actually going to put a ballpark there or something. I think it would make more sense to wait until we have a finalized plan of what our park is going to look like and then proceed with the parking in the areas that it fits around what we're going to do for our park.
Yeah.
Do we have any other comments or questions, or do you want to make that in the form of a motion, Alderman Hoffman?
Would like to move to strike the parking lot from the budget,
All right, to amend the budget?
to amend the budget to
remove-
reflect.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, I believe you said you had another thing, Alderman Hoffman?
I do, and I was hoping the first domino would fall so that the second domino could be brought up. We had, there's been a lot of discussion about the two jobs, which was the communication officer and the economic development position. And by getting rid of the parking lot for this budget, it opens up a window to create at least one of those positions to be added.
That will close your gap on funding if that's what the board so chooses to use.
Right.
Correct, that's what I was looking for.
For both of them.
For both. So I would like to, at a minimum, add one of those positions back and combine them, or I would like to add both of them back to the budget. And I guess I'd like to hear from the other aldermen what your positions on that are.
Comments or questions from the board on this? Alderman Ross.
I would just say that I think both functions are important. I've always been concerned about whether communication position on standalone was really a full-time position. And so I guess from what my perspective, the question, should it be combined, or I think that we should start with combined and work down that path would be what I would suggest. That's all I got on.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and speak my piece too, because we did have some discussions about this. One of the things with the economic development specialist that had been approved before us, or myself and Alderman Hoffman, that position had some parameters that needed to be actually legally an economic development specialist. They had to follow certain procedures, get certain titles, and my opinion has always been that this city does not need somebody of that caliber. When developers come in here asking for TIFs, or they're asking for some sort of increment financing, it's my opinion that an economic development specialist, even though legally they need to know that stuff, I don't think we need that person. I think we need somebody to help sell the city. I think they should be going to the CVB meetings, going to the convention, the different various meetings. I think they should take over all the social media, and I think they should have a good basic general knowledge of TIFs and that sort of thing. And so if they do sell it to a developer, they say, hey, here's what we offer, here's what we have helped other developers. But once they get into the nuts and bolts, I don't think their time should be spent studying how to become licensed in that. I think that's why the developers pay us to hire third parties, and they know all the specifics. So we've had this discussion before, so it's your board's decision, but my opinion is we come up with whatever that title may be, whether it's a communications specialist or whatever it is, they take on the role of selling the city, being out in the community, taking over the social media, take that away from from Gina's job, and have one position where they basically sell the city. And talking with Gina, her role is, if the board so chooses, tell her what they want that job to include, and then she can create that position.
Well, I'm going to elaborate on that. Two different things here. Funding in the budget needs to be identified. So maybe leave 50% of that funding in to be determined what that looks like specific. What I might ask for you is, what areas of focus do you feel that I need to be meeting operationally? Let me take that information, whether you guys send it to me individually, take that and put to a specific job description that I can also tie to the need on the operational side from my side as well, and then cross that bridge on those specifics. But address the funding first, and then what the nuts and bolts of that is kind of secondary to make that happen. Does that make sense? Questions?
Alderman Osteen.
Once again, just clarifying procedure here. So basically, we would need to, since we're amending the budget, to include those positions back in for balancing purposes. Step one, we need to approve those positions. I'm trying to clarify how we do this.
The funding of a position to be determined, and that is fine. It's like, we're going to hold a position. We're yet to be determined that it meets the strategic focus of the board, but the operational needs of operations. So yes, two different sides. You can say, okay, we want to leave in 50% of what you took out in a position to be determined so the budget can move forward. It's got a placehold of money. On the personnel side, as the personnel officer for the city, I take very seriously on basically identifying what I need operationally. And I have done that through those job descriptions I've created on these hired positions. However, if those hired positions that I need operationally, in addition, are not meeting maybe a focus of a strategic vision that the board has, give me feedback on where you think those focuses are lacking, and let me play that into the personnel schedule and how that works out. I've got funding as a placehold of to be determined, but that way I can attempt to operationally take care of the personnel internally, but also address what the vision of the gaps in focus that you guys as the mayor and board feel you're missing.
So moving forward to clarify some more. So if we were to retain those two positions, or basically retain one and add one, wouldn't the discussions regarding the responsibilities for those, or if we're going to try to combine them, be a closed door session since it's HR personnel? No?
My duty as city administrator is to put forth what the city needs operationally. Obviously, that needs to align with the vision of the city. The board, unless it's an appointed official, doesn't necessarily dictate the hired employees. But I also think it's also very adamant that my operational needs of the city meet the vision and strategic needs of what the mayor and the board want to see. So that's why it's like, give me feedback on what you think they're missing. In and of itself, those two positions are two separate positions. There's two separate skill sets. There's two separate operating details that I need, and they're not the same people. They're not the same experience background. They're not the same specific. So combining them as it stands right now, no, I do not recommend that as an operational benefit.
Okay.
However, there are pieces to that operation piece that I could still retain. Knowing what vision you guys want or what gaps in focus you feel are missing, and let me put some work into that, work with the HR and determine, okay, what does that truly look like?
Okay, so for now, basically, it's just an amendment to retain the position
funding
and
question.
create, okay.
And then further work that I can ensure what I want to put forward operationally also meets what the board has intentions to meet, the focuses that they think are lacking.
Since Kevin's not here, I've got to pick up his slack.
Bless him. He would
On
appreciate
procedural
that.
and how things.
I've just, could you clarify this for me? So you don't want our feedback tonight. You want our feedback via email, come and talk to you over the next week. or so?
You know what?
Correct.
You're right. The immediate task right now is hand is give me direction on what you want to fund and what
the
you
budget,
don't want to
correct.
fund.
On the budget.
And if you know you want to fund some personnel, I don't mind saying to be determined what that is. Or keep them in there as is and then let me get your feedback and maybe it changes one or the two. Maybe it changes them both. But give me an opportunity to do what I need to do on the personnel side, but I need your feedback. So yeah, my request is either come in and talk to me one-on-one or send me an email. But yeah, I'd like to have some feedback before the end of the year so we can tackle this shortly after the beginning of the year.
Do you need a dollar amount at this point to put into the budget?
It can be as much as put in 50% of what you took out to be determined, or leave them as is, because now they can be, or put them back in as is, because now with other changes, it's answered the funding issue, which was the immediate conflict that I had in balancing the budget, or anything in between.
So I think basically it's just going to be an amendment to retain the position of Economic Development Specialist for the 2024 budget and create,
And retain, well, it's basically put back in the two positions from version 1 that were removed from
Okay,
version 2
okay.
because of funding. That was the only reason I removed those. I did not remove those because I don't feel they're not important. I removed those because of priority and I have a statutory requirement to balance the budget.
all right, so basically we're looking for an amendment.
Well, I'm going to throw another wrinkle into this because it's my personal opinion, if you haven't already figured it out, is that the role of economic development specialist that was approved before I became mayor, I think that role is not what the city needs. I do not think the city needs somebody that's a licensed economic development specialist. I think they need more of an ambassador of the city and a communications specialist. Alderman Schumer.
So however, if we put it in to retain that, she can look at and adjust what and then later it would just be an adjustment of the job title. But as for now, just for the budget, so we can talk later about, okay, we don't need somebody exactly licensed in economic development. We need to do this and this, but we still have the placeholder for the payment is basically what you're asking, correct?
Placeholder for the payment, but I do not want to make a decision on information I don't know from each of you. You all, as a board, maybe not current board, approve the job description for the economic development. Yes, I still see there's operational value. But as I've outlined, if that vision has changed, I don't want to say what I will or won't do until I see what, I do understand what the mayor's saying, and we have talked in length, but I've not had those conversations. So send me your focus, and then let me respond appropriately to figure out, okay, does this meet your focus? And I can also layer that into what I need, because there are also positions in that economic development specialist, and it wouldn't be called an economic development specialist, but there are still tasks in that job I want to absorb somewhere.
Alderman Schumer.
But what I'm saying is, for tonight, all you need us to say is, let's fund this, and later we'll figure that part out.
Right.
Okay.
Put the funding
Right.
back
Okay.
in, yes.
That's perfect.
One last question if I could. Is it easier for you or more efficient for you if we just say, put them both back in, we'll figure it out later? Or is it easier to say, hey, let's put 50% back in and create that job?
Put them both back in and to be determined.
Okay.
Make the motion.
Then at this,
I have one more thing to say. Because, and this is something I probably should have had a conversation, but I just now thought about it now that we're talking about this. Does the role of the budgeting and the process of hiring change if it's an appointed position as opposed to a position where we go through the regular interview process? Would the budgeting portion be different?
No, the budgeting portion, but I'm not recommending this be a. No, this is not an appointed official. It's just getting more, closing the gap on the focus of the mayor and board as it relates to operations.
Okay.
But the budget's the same, whether, yeah.
All right, Alderman Hoffman.
I would like to make a motion to put the two jobs back into the 2024 budget, please.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Osteen beat you by a hair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are any opposed? All right, Alderman Hoffman, I think you said you had one more thing.
I do. So this is a water. It's in the water department. They're asking for two new vehicles. Mike, could you give me a quick synopsis on what those two vehicles are? I believe one has the bent frame, correct?
Right, so it's
Mike,
truck
Mike.
52.
please. Mike.
Sorry. Truck 52 is a 2015 F-350, 74, a little over, around 75,000 miles. The other one is Truck 56, which is a 2002 F-250 with a service bed that has 128,000 miles on it.
And so when we spoke after the budget meeting, and I spoke to someone in the water department, I think maybe his name was Nathan, I can't remember.
It was
No,
Zach.
Basically, what I took from that was, we definitely need this truck. It's got a bent frame. When I went around and asked some, car guys that I know, that it came back that, hey, once a frame is bent on a truck that big, it's better to get a new truck. It's pretty tough to fix it. But that truck isn't very old, correct?
That truck is a 2015 F-350.
Okay. So it doesn't quite meet the time requirements on like the 10-year time requirement.
It does not, no.
Okay. And so what I'm proposing, when I asked, was that, could we get another year or two out of this water truck? What's wrong with it, the other one? And it was, well, it's going out a little bit here, and yeah, we could get another year or two out of it. I think it makes sense to stretch that vehicle a little bit, because we're getting this one a little bit earlier, and we know that we need that one. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have good vehicles, and I'm all about having good branding, but in my opinion, that truck, I think that we need long-term to be thinking about getting maximum value out of our vehicles, and just because it's at 10 years doesn't mean we should just buy something new. Maybe that vehicle doesn't get used enough to buy one until it's 13 or 14 years. And I think that vehicle falls under that parameters to where we can get another year or two out of it. So I'll open it up to the mayor and other members of the board, but that's kind of my position on that one vehicle.
All right, comments or questions on this subject? Alderman Ross.
Very simple comment, I agree.
All right. Any other comments or questions, or do you have a motion you would like to propose?
I would like to make a motion to strike that vehicle from the budget.
Which one is
Clarify.
that? Please be specific.
It is Truck 56,
I think it's the F-250, I believe.
the F-250.
Look on your list, Mike, they're combined. What was your, what is the year and the model of the truck, so I know where the motion can be clear?
It is an F-250 2012.
2012 or 2015?
2012.
2012.
That's the other one.
The one that's got the bent frame is the newer of the two.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay, I thought it was
I thought you said
2002
Okay.
earlier. Was it 2012 is what it was?
It's 11 years old.
It's 11 years old, yes.
Okay, all right, yep.
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I said 02.
Okay,
So I would like to make a motion to strike the 2012 Truck 56 from the budget.
and what was the amount of that truck?
They're combined, so I'm
Okay,
not
okay.
sure.
Do we know approximately?
It's $192,000 combined.
How much?
192,500
They're combined, the
combined.
details are in my office.
Gotcha, all right, that's right.
And there's,
I believe, just thinking back, it was around $80,000.
Okay.
I got the details in my office.
Any other comments or questions on that? If not, would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
I would like to make a motion to strike the Truck 56 from the budget.
second.
The replacement of.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Alderman Hoffman, did you have anything else?
That's all I had. I wanted to thank everyone. I know you guys put a lot of time and effort into this budget. I appreciate it.
All right, any other comments or questions on the budget? Alderman Ross.
I have a few, and I guess we'll start with, since we ended in water, we'll start with water. Mike, I'm torn with the runabout extension, because I think we spoke, and there's one individual that this will service?
That is correct, sir.
And did they request it? Have we had problems down there? Do you know if they're having problems with their water supply?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you it has been requested.
Like they came to us and asked? Is that what you mean? Okay, is there a reason why we're not doing the sewer also?
The sewer bids came in. That was a project that was supposed to be done this year, and they were rejected because they were too high.
Rejected, and maybe I forgot, did the board do that?
The board did not do that, no.
Okay. So we bid the two projects separately? I would have thought we would put water and sewer in kind of together.
This is kind of a unique situation. Water comes from one direction, sewer from the other, so we chose to do them separately.
Okay. And when we talked, you had mentioned on the upside, for lack of better terms, a lot of downside on this project because it's, what, $180,000 or something for one?
It is, yeah.
There is some potential for some other clients down there, but, would there be additional cost if we had, I think you said there might be another 10 or 15, I guess they would be out of city, would that be right?
Yeah, the project would bring a new water main to the city limits, and then within the next, I don't know, 800 yards, there is at least 12 to 15 homes that are just outside city limits. But all of them are on private utilities currently.
So water and sewer. Can you give us some perspective on what the sewer was, the sewer cost? Because it would seem to me the sewer would be more important down there.
I don't have that number, but I can
Okay.
get it for you and email it to the board.
So at this point, I'm curious what other board members think. It's a lot of money to spend for one water client. But it is an unserved area, or unserviced area, I will say it that way, since it's, that we had talked about. We wanted to try to minimize those. So I'm curious any thoughts anybody has.
Alderman Hoffman.
Does anyone talk to the actual resident?
Yes, they've requested.
Yes.
They did request it.
And that resident's been on the list for a while, and I want to add to Alderman Ross, and I know we talked about this off the dais, but unserved areas has been a hot topic in the last several years, strategic planning. So, you know, we did a map, we did a internal map, and we know that our little pockets are these last for a reason because they only get a few. So over the last couple of years, Mike and the GIS, making a map of where our unserviced areas, both water and sewer, and sometimes it makes sense to do them together, sometimes it's one or the other. You know, where are requests coming from, who's unserved, what we get to, and just knocking those out. So every year, and I want to say in 2020 budget, maybe that's where it started, the board insisted staff seeing some money allocated to unserved areas of water and sewer, period. So we've kind of kept that through. Now, again, every budget stands on their own, and if there's constraints, then we don't skip it. That's exactly why, because of the dollar constraints, that's why we didn't carry over, or chose not to put in the draft the carryover of Antioch, which had some other issues as well. So there's a reason on some you didn't see, but if that philosophy or vision has changed, you know, that's fine, but this is the time, just so you know kind of where we put that, so.
Mike, I have a question. Has the city promised these residents that we would do this?
Well, I mean, specifically promised, no. I mean, I have told the resident that I would do my best to put the project before the board for approval. Okay. And I've let them know that it is in the proposed budget. Now, I do believe that it's the city's responsibility to provide water and sewer utilities to all citizens within the city. We are literally down to like the last 4% on water, maybe 6% on sewer. So whatever I bring you now is going to be for 1 to 6, 8 customers, and it's gonna be expensive.
And just for clarification, these are citizens of Osage Beach.
Yes.
And so, my opinion is we need to service our citizens of Osage Beach. The last few may be expensive and difficulty, but they're citizens of our city, so. Alderman Schuman.
I'm just curious, you said that putting this in would bring it to potentially closer to more people that were outside. Have we asked any of those people that were, or are we allowed to ask any of those people that are just outside if they would be interested? So that's kind of like in the back of our mind too, knowing that we're serving our citizen, but we are also reaching, I know we said potential, but if they're interested at all in coming on?
No, we haven't spoke to any of the other residents down that road.
All right, comments or questions? Alderman
I-
Osteen.
I do have a comment. Since I have sat on this board, we have always talked about expanding our services to all the underserved areas within the city of Osage Beach. Not just with water, but sewer, but it's also been discussions regarding annexing certain areas, incorporating them into the city limits of Osage Beach. It's about bringing private roads into public road inventory. I think we set a bad precedent if we do not continue to move forward with that plan based on dollars. So all budgeting and dollars aside, we cannot pick and choose who we are going to incorporate into the city, what services we are going to provide for the citizens based on where they're located and how much it's going to cost. So I just want to throw that out there that this has always been, since I've been here, our plan to do these type of things. All costs aside, we owe it to our citizens and to keep with the vision we've had for the 4 years I've been on this board. That's all.
Alderman Hoff?
Sorry. Mike, just kind of shooting from the hip, do you think there might be a more cost-efficient way to do this over the next year? Like, let's say we did reach out to the people that are just outside city limits and they did want to come in, or a way to later to maybe combine sewage into this package? Like, do you think, just, I know you're shooting from the hip on this one a little bit, but do you think maybe there's a more cost-effective way if we look into it a little deeper?
If I'm directed to do so, then I'll be happy to look at combining these projects into one in a future budget year. But as it stands right now, the engineering estimate that I got is what I put in the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Is this the house next to the animal shelter?
Yes?
Okay, and so the animal shelter would have the capacity to be able to hook on as well if they wanted to?
Yes?
Okay.
Can I ask that? And I'm looking at it on GIS just to figure out, because I was trying to figure out where it was, but that house also, that I know the gentleman owns several businesses just outside city, or at least couple businesses just outside city limits, so he's the same person who would be potentially making those decisions on some of those business properties.
Yeah, and he's already alluded to the fact that even though the business is outside city limits, he's going to pursue trying to connect that one as well. But technically, there's only one resident that is within city limits that, that I was interested in. But there's potential for more, both commercial and residential.
Yeah.
Alderman Ross.
And so I'll just say one of the biggest disappointments in this, and I agree we should get these services out there. But when the sewer wasn't, this was just for one person, for water only, is why I brought the question up. And I guess I have no concern, I guess we can move forward the way it's budgeted, but I would ask this question. Can we either get the bid information or include, the bid for whether we approve it or not, to understand how much more it would cost to go ahead and get the water and sewer while we're there?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to provide that information when I get back to the office tomorrow.
Okay, because it just seems odd to me that we'll bring water, but we'll not bring sewer.
It's kind of a complicated situation. The other one we were originally going to do in-house, the sewer one. The sewer side we were originally going to do in-house when it was originally budgeted. And then what happened, happened. And so the right thing to do was to try and bid it out and see if we could have it done outside a house, because we just didn't have the experience inside anymore. And so that did not really match the budget that I had put in place for it, and it didn't make sense for us to move forward with it. And it's actually the sewer side of the project is actually 3 different homes in different locations around town, and he was just one of them. Whereas this water project is just for Runabout. But I'll be happy to get that information to the board tomorrow.
Well, and my point would be this, that if there is some reason for synergy, okay, and we have seen, for example, at the sand station that was approved, that repair, we'll call it repair, okay, however you want to call that, that came in a whole lot cheaper than we ever thought it was going to come in this last time. $150,000+ cheaper. So some things have gotten cheaper.
It was more than that, but yes,
was
sir.
It? Yeah, right.
It was like $300,000 difference.
Was it that much? Okay,
Yeah.
but anyway, point is I'd like to figure out if we can find a way to do sewer while we're doing water out there, okay? I mean, I would think that the animal shelter could probably really use sewer out there. With this, you know, and plus some other folks up and down that road. So, and that way there's a better return in my mind on the investment. So, is there any other on that? So, go ahead.
And so if we left it in, we could basically leave it in as is, having the placeholder for the money. And then if he was able to get another bid, it
could
could
amend the
be
budget.
amended, correct? So at least we would have a placeholder for this. Okay.
Cool.
Well, I would just throw in, you know, for the consideration and the mix, that you're looking at approximately, give or take, 280 undeveloped single-family lots that would benefit from us having water and sewer to that point and provide project area where we would get new customers and impact fees. So,
Can I ask, are those lots in this limits or out?
they are not in the city
They're the
limits,
out,
but they're
okay.
the boulders, if you know where the boulders is, and I can tell you for the most part that they have sat undeveloped because of the cost of putting in private sewer and water.
Okay, good to know.
All right, did you have more, Alderman Ross?
Nope. Oh, not on that subject.
No,
I have
okay,
other
yep,
items.
you're gonna leave that alone then, right?
Leave that alone.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I guess we'll go to transportation next. So the first ones, this is kind of a group of them. There's like, from what I can tell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if I can read the fine lines right. Drainage projects. Justin and I had an opportunity to go out with Mike and Rob. They were great to show us some different things and get some insight on what some of our legal responsibilities at the very least are towards water drainage that comes off our streets onto private property. And so maybe, Cole, for everybody, you kind of give them the legal definition of what you came up with of how we should look at this.
So I was along on our little field trip as well, which was incredibly educational for me, just to see kind of what we were looking at fixing. So some of the projects that are on the list, and I couldn't tell you, and if it wasn't one of the ones I visited, I couldn't tell you which is which. But, you know, obviously, if we have a culvert of ours that is, you know, become crushed, you know, cars traveling over it has cracked it, it's not carrying the capacity it needs, that's our responsibility. We need to fix it, because if it discharges too much water or not enough water, then we would be responsible for the damage caused by that. On the other hand, we have several other projects that we looked at that are simply, while the water does come off of our property and that water does damage downstream or downhill property, it's not something that we've done wrong. In fact, the water is usually coming from further uphill elsewhere and is coming to us, and it's simply crossing over our road, or I think it's typically been roads and maybe a sidewalk in there or something, but let's just say road. So we have to have essentially altered the flow of the water in a way that makes the water flow worse to be responsible for it. Whereas if the road just so happens to be along the water's path, that's not really our liability. And that's something I think we've discussed in a couple of the closed sessions about what, you know, where our liability begins and ends. So some of the projects that we looked at, just for like example, the very first one we went to, Mike, the head for the 4 houses, there's water coming off our road, and it is unquestionably going into a couple of homes. But our road's not causing that damage. In fact, you know, the homes are kind of set up to, a couple of them are literally set up to channel the water into the home instead of divert the water around the home. And so those I don't really feel are our liability. Now, it goes back to a question of kind of what we were talking about with serviced areas. You know, we don't have a liability, so we don't need to fix that in the way that we have to fix it to head off being sued for the damage we're causing, or, you know, because we're responsible for that damage. Now, the board has the decision of whether or not we should, you know, even though we don't have to fix it, we still should fix it. That's a political question. That's a question for the elected officials. Whether, you know, we have the ability to stop that damage. Is this the best way to spend our tax dollars, or is it appropriate to say to the homeowners, or property owners, I should say, because a couple of them were talking about water running down unimproved hillsides. But is it appropriate to say to the property owner, this, this is your, this is just where the water goes. We're a city built on hills. The water has to go somewhere, and it just, unfortunately, it's unfortunate. It's not their fault. It's not our fault, but unfortunately, the water has to come to you. For what it's worth, most of these, I believe, in fact, I think all of the ones we looked at in person, with maybe one exception I can think of, are ones that have been in the same condition for over a decade, if not more. And a couple of them in particular have essentially come up because the water's running down unimproved hillside, and the homeowner or the property owner has decided that they want to improve that hillside, and they don't want to be responsible for diverting the water from the course it's been on for the last 15 plus, 20 plus years. And while I certainly empathize with that desire on part of the homeowner, that's not the city's legal responsibility. Now, if the board feels it's still our moral responsibility, that is your decision, and I don't express an opinion on that, but I wouldn't advise you that we need to go fix those drainage features or change those drainage features strictly from a legal standpoint.
All right.
I hope that answers it.
Alderman Rowe. Alderman Schuman.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm thinking of this correctly. So basically, based on the natural lay of the land, regardless if our road was not there, this is the same path that the water would take regardless as if we had a road there or not. So because it is coming from above our road just happens to be there and is getting some of where the water is going over to. So it is not our road creating the path of water, it is just the natural landscape that is creating it, for the most part.
For the most part, there's a couple of them that we looked at that are a little bit different. One I can think of, we probably did change the course, but we changed it 15, 20 years ago to divert onto a vacant hillside. And so, I mean, that wouldn't stand in court because it's been so long. The change was made 15 years ago, and the statute of limitations is 3 or 5, depending on what judge you get. Another one, kind of same thing. I mean, I think the question ultimately boils down to is our use of our land reasonable? Mm-hmm. And I think we're making pretty reasonable use. I think the one, I think it was the very last one we went to, Mike, was the one that I said, that one you could squint and see it. The pool one.
But off of Cove Road?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But the others, the one on Proctor was the next closest, I thought, but I didn't, again, that one was, it had been like that for what, 15 years?
Yeah, Proctor's not one of the ones we visited.
Yeah, we went to Proctor.
We did?
We met with the homeowner, remember?
Yeah,
He came up and talked to us.
He came up and talked to us.
Oh, that's right, I apologize, yep, okay.
And that's one where, again, that project was done a long time ago. The water was, again, it had to go somewhere. It's not going in anybody's home. It's not really causing any damage. Again, I empathize with the homeowner greatly, but he wants to improve that area. And he's gonna be in the best position to improve it in a way that it doesn't cause him any harm. All he's gotta do is, I don't wanna say all he has to do, but he, just when he designs his project, he has to design it for the water course that's there. Again, we're built on a hill. The water has to go somewhere.
So is it I have a question. So is it the board's intention to identify these in legally required or in the bucket or wish list? Is that?
Well,
Is that?
first of all, let me just say this, back to kind of Kelly's question. Every one of them that we looked at, and I think you'll find that every single one of these, except for the Beach Drive culvert replacement, which I think is maybe a different situation, okay? Yes. Every one that says drainage improvement or stormwater improvement, all of those are areas that are below our street, okay? Mm-hmm. So it was always a location that was below his street, okay? And so in the end, and 2 or 3 of them, like you said, were because people wanted to do, I know of 2 of them, that they want to do improvements on their property. And I just think it's a slippery slope to be taking care of all of these. I can tell you that if this is the approach the board wants to take, and that's okay. There's probably 3 or 4 I can dial in right away that'll probably cost us another 200,000 or 300,000, and there'll be several more coming fairly quickly. because I just don't think this is the best approach. Because I don't think that we have a legal responsibility, and I would much rather be putting in sidewalks and maintaining streets better or improving streets than trying to clean up all the drainage around here, because I don't think you'll ever clean up all the drainage.
Do you have a motion in there, Alderman Ross?
To remove, and I don't know if you want me to identify each project, Gina. There's
6.
Well, so Mike, the Beach Drive one would fit one that's something that's not operable that needs to be repaired, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's the Summit Circle, Girard, Lois, Bellwood,
Proctor and Zebra?
Proctor, and Zebra.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got the identification.
I would make a motion that those items be deleted from the budget.
Well, as somebody who lives on Summit Circle,
We have a problem.
I may have to excuse myself from that part of the vote.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
So that
opposed?
was Summit and
Do
Bellwood.
we have any opposed? Repeat those, please, for the
Yes.
record.
Yeah.
Summit Circle, Girard,
Oh, Gerard.
Lois, Bellwood, Proctor, and Zebra.
All right, we have a first and a second for those. I'm going to ask for a vote again because I don't know if everybody was sure, but all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to have to oppose.
All right. All right, the
We've
motion,
eliminated the junction of Zebra and Summit, and removing those two from those 6.
all right, so the motion does carry.
Okay.
Alderman Ross, you had more?
Yes. While we're on transportation, so I wanted to, if you happen to be on the list, up above those items that you found, there's an international dump truck. Mike, I didn't realize it, but we have 2 of these dump trucks. 52. Right?
Yes.
Okay, and one of them has already been approved for replacement, is that right?
The one that's listed in the budget right there is the one that's been approved, and we've already signed the contract, and they are in the process of building the truck right now. It'll be delivered in October of 2024.
So this isn't the second one, this is the one that's already ordered.
This is the one that's already ordered, yes.
Okay, so to remove it would be like negating a contract, is that right? Is that what I just
I
heard?
guess, yeah.
It's ordered and being built,
It
board
was already
approved.
approved in '23, correct?
In the
23.
last couple months, we did a couple new ones to get them
Okay.
ordered for the time.
When I talked to Rob was under the impression this was the second one, so, okay, I'm wrong. Okay, I misunderstood. So if it's already approved and ordered, then I guess we'll move on. The last thing is the street sweeper, $150,000. I guess the best way I can put it is I think the street sweeper is around 10 or 11 years old, and as much as, I'm not convinced. Rob and I have had extensive conversations about this and the value of street sweeping as Rob has, but that's okay. But to spend $150,000, I think the citizens and residents are much better, and visitors would be much more to have this as either sidewalks or street maintenance or so forth versus buying a new street sweeper. And so I'm curious anybody else's thoughts. I just don't see the value of $150,000 for a new street sweeper when we've got one that I realize it's old and you may have a little problem with it, but it still works.
Alderman Schuman.
What is the main problems with the current street sweeper? Because I kind of remember us talking about this at one time, but I can't remember. I felt like it was kind of extensive, wasn't it?
Right, so first of all, that price includes them giving a $45,000 trade-in for the current one. The rear broom is broken and must be manually raised and lowered to use. The left side broom is broken and will not extend. So every time they come, I shouldn't say every time, let's say 7 out of 10 times that they come to a stoplight on the parkway, they blow a fuse because of electrical problems with it, and they have to get out of the vehicle while they're in the street and go around and change the fuses. We keep extra fuses there because of this. We have been trying for 8 months now to get someone to work on this, and we have been unable to find anybody that can work on it. The last time we had somebody work on it was right at the turn of the year between 22 and 23, and we found a gentleman out of Springfield that would work on it. He spent about 4 days working on it at that time and fixed some of the things on it. We have tried to get back in touch with that gentleman. We are not able to get back in touch with that gentleman. Let's see here. Other than that, the only thing I have written here is that the model has been discontinued, parts are hard to find, and have long lead times. The last time it was down, which was the time I just mentioned that we had it repaired earlier this year, we waited 3 months before we were able to find just that guy to help us fix it. Additionally, the brooms are not, they don't tilt. So with all the hills and valleys we have here, there's a lot of times where we have to take the machine and go sideways just to get certain areas. There's about 3 or 4 roads in our inventory that it's because of the problems that it has, we can't even get it back up some of the hills. So that's basically a summary of what's going on with that vehicle.
And I will say, I personally do see a value in having a street sweeper that works, knowing the landscape of our area. There is a lot of drainage onto the roads and stuff, and that kicks up onto vehicles and such as they're driving, build up on the road. If ours isn't, I understand putting money towards some things, but to me, that is an important one, is having a functioning vehicle. Our guy's stranded on the road. Every time it needs a fuse changed, blocking up traffic is one thing to me. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you. Sorry. Alderman Hoffman.
I just have 2 questions. How old is it?
I think 10 or
So I
11.
think you said 11 years old.
11?
That is correct.
Okay. Honestly, I just never see it out very often. Where does it normally run?
We run it between 6
When
8
it's
8
working.
We run it from between 6 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning on the Parkway before the traffic gets heavy, so that we can get that out of the way. Anytime there is something that is spilled on the road, on the Parkway or on one of our side roads, somebody dumps a load of something, we come in there, we clean it up. Without that device, without that piece of equipment, we would not be able to clean up when you have about a dozen times a year when something's on the bridge or something happens.
Does it do lake roads too, or is it just specifically kind of for?
Like I said, there's only about
Parkway?
3 or 4 roads in town that we can't get it down just because they're too steep and it just doesn't have enough power to get back up them. There's been a couple where we've learned the hard way and we've had to tow it back up.
Yeah, it's not just the Parkway, and they use it also like the pea gravel after salting and all that kind of stuff at the end of the season to clean all that up off.
Yeah, we usually hit it really heavy in March just so that we can try and get all that salt up so that less goes down into the lake.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any comments over there, questions? Alderman Ross, did you have a motion?
Let's
you
just
wanted
find
to
out. I will just say this. I've seen the street sweeper come down my street. And what I see when they're done is a cloud of dust and still quite a bit of stuff. Now, maybe that's because it doesn't work, but I have yet to see the value. So we'll just, one way or another, vote it up or down. Motion to approve removing the street sweeper.
make? All right, is there a second?
I have a comment.
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna say, it does help removing the pea gravel and everything that they spread during the winter, helps us reduce motorcycle crashes, because they hit those, it goes out from underneath them. So the street sweeper is a benefit now.
Okay, all right, thank you for the comment. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
All right, Alderman Morose. All right, let's do a roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen?
No.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman?
No,
Alderman Hoffman?
No.
Alderman Dale?
All right,
Okay.
that motion dies.
Yes. Let's see. So make sure I got all my notes right.
On amendment, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Amendment.
Yeah, amendment. He was just amending to remove it. It stays in.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
No is to leave the budget the same.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
Okay, that's what, okay. We'll go to airports. So the lowering the power cables. So this is a unique project. Ty and I talked about it. It's the power lines that are, I guess, on that side of the Parkway across the street from us that are at the end of the runway. I realize it's a 90-10 project, meaning that FAA, first of all, I asked, well, is this a requirement? And the answer, Ty, is no, it's a recommendation from the FAA, all right? So anything I say, please, if I get this wrong. So then I said, well, okay, so what would the difference be if we lowered that? I think either took them down or put them under the ground, all right? And Ty, you mentioned something about we are now flagged, for lack of a better term, I think, from the FAA, that the Grand Glaze Airport should not be landed at night with instrument only. Did I say that right, Ty?
Correct.
Right.
Just for that runway.
Just for that runway at the Grand Glaze?
1-4, coming in that direction.
Oh, from that one direction, okay, because,
I'm sorry, yeah.
right. So
Just-
if they were coming in from the other direction, it'd be okay, is that what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay. But, so then I asked, okay, well, because I remember when I first got, in the first few years I was here, how at one time restaurant, it's now the Santa Palm Tree Christmas Land storage place or whatever, okay? I was like, Ty, so would that negate, in other words, would we still have a problem? And your impression, as I recall, Ty, is we would still have a problem. We wouldn't have solved it, is that correct?
Correct.
Right. So while I realize that it's a $600,000 project that only costs us 60 grand, I don't know why we would spend, whether it's our money or the federal money, okay, to try to improve something that really we can't make much difference in anyway. So if I've missed anything or you think there should be added comments, go right ahead.
The only thing I'll say is it's a project that has been in the budget for 2 or 3 years, and we've never been able to get it off the ground. We are getting ready to, at the next meeting, we're getting ready to bring the airport master plan in, and then right behind that, we've got the taxiway project. So I know the FAA wants it to stay on the capital plan long-term, because we just talked about that yesterday. But you know, if it's something that the board wants to postpone, then I don't see a big problem with it.
Gina, you?
Mike, I have a question for you or
Excuse
Ty,
me.
if you can answer. What is the effect if we don't do this on our non-discretionary funds that we use between the airports, or does it have anything? And how do you remove it from the airport layout plan? That way we don't.
I'm not
Those two things, how would that affect our non-discretionary funds assigned to both airports and airport layout plan completion in order to get to the next step where we can use money for hangars or terminal or those kind of things? You may not answer it tonight, but I want to make sure we've thought about the cause and effect of future project priorities.
I didn't think about that, Gina, and I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out.
Alderman Schuman?
I just had a question about, so what you were saying, Richard, is that even if we lower the lines, that one business is built so high up that we would still have the exact same problems, whether the lines were down or lowered or not.
We would still
We'd still
have-
not be
so-
allowed to
But-
land those planes
Yeah.
in the same way,
Let Ty
correct?
describe it, but Ty had a thing that they called, what is it, a angle of descent or something like that?
Right, yeah, it's, they go 20 to 1 slope, and depending on what the type of approach is, sometimes they'll go 34 to 1 slope. And they have basically what they call a runway protection zone. And even if we did lower those power lines, which would help the
Pilots.
Mexican Air Force, whatever we want to call it.
That's what it originally was.
Right.
was a mistake.
That building is still within the protection zone, and also the hotel that's to the left there is
The hotel, okay.
still. So
Red Roof Inn, I think.
Okay.
it would be just another step to help create a safer approach to that particular runway. So if in the future,
Those
maybe
businesses
those
were
bids,
low.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it actually has been requested by several pilots. You know, I get several requests, probably two, 3 a year,
That's good
wanting to know if or when we're going to lower the power lines. So
Okay, thank you.
it's kind of a safety factor in the back of their mind.
Alderman Hoffman?
I guess I have a question and a comment. My question is, you know, if we were to postpone this for a year, does that hamper the progress at Lisi Fine in any way? Does that put you in a compromising position with the FAA in any way? Or is this just strictly, you know, Is this just on us?
I don't see any problem with postponing it.
Okay.
I mean, as far as, I mean, we should always probably keep it on the layout plan. That would keep the FAA happy, you know, that it's still in the back of our mind that it's a safety factor and they would like to see it done. But as far as stopping any other projects down the line, I don't
My
see-
comment is, it makes sense to me to do this, but I think we should tie that in with if the buildings are gonna change. If the buildings are gonna change, let's tag that on, let's get it all done at once. That's just kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Any other comments?
I just have one question.
Alderman Schumer.
You said the airport master plan is coming to us soon, correct?
So it's item D. Starts at item D, E, F, and G. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking you meant you were gonna bring something else there, and I was like, well, is this gonna mess your stuff up? Okay, I'm awake now, I promise. I'm in. I'm good.
Anybody else? All right, Alderman Ross, do you have a motion in
So I'll
there?
make a motion that we, what do you call it, put it on hold or to take it out of the budget for 2024, this project with the power line cable burial.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call, please.
Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Is a yes vote to
Remove it.
Yes takes it out.
yes takes it out? Sorry, I'm awake now too. Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
I'm yes, but I want to clarify something real quick. Shouldn't the amendment not necessarily say that we're removing it from the budget, but that we're putting it back on low priority for the master plan? Or, because everybody wants to see that it's still on our radar.
The budget is only the cash flow issue, so either you fund it or you don't fund it for fiscal year 2024. So the motion needs to either fund it or unfund it. Keep it in or remove it, because
But it
that's
remains,
what we're
but it
talking.
remains part of the airport master
That's-
plan
That is separate
that
than
the
the
FAA
budget.
sees.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm a yes, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to
okay.
clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
All right, that amendment also passes. Alderman Ross.
Okay, and I think we're about to get to the end. Sorry, guys, appreciate everybody's patience. So there was 2 fuel trucks that were approved, or that are in this budget, and I would like to see us take a little slower route around replacing them. And so I guess I would suggest from a clarity standpoint, unless you guys have some different opinion, that if we were going to remove one, that it would be the one at the Grand Glaze.
That would be a good assessment, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? I don't want to run you.
No, that's fine. Comments, additional comments or questions? Alderman Hoffman.
Could you just give me your quick assessment on the 2 vehicles? Which is the better of the 2?
Yeah, if I was going to keep one of the 2, I'd keep the one at Grand Glaze right now.
Okay, and then that would give us the best used one at Grand Glaze, and then we're going to get a brand new one for Lisi Fine.
It'd be new to us, correct?
Correct. Would you then take the the third one and sell it, or use it for parts or emergency vehicle, or is there another use for it, or would you just go ahead and sell it?
We'd just sell it, yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
My question was, which one, if it's one, is, I thought I just heard that Grand Glaze is the one you'd rather keep. Did I misunderstand that?
That I would rather keep?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we would delete the one from Lisi Fine in the budget, or does it matter?
No, he's saying they would keep
Grand
the Grand Glaze as the truck that we currently have, so we would be deleting the Grand Glaze from the budget,
Okay,
keeping
sorry.
Lisi
Yes,
Fine in the budget.
I want to keep the old Grand Glaze truck.
Got it, now I get it. I'm trying to get awake too, okay? I'm
Glad
going
I'm
to
not
steal
the
some
only one.
Monster drink over here so,
Any other comments or questions, or do you have a motion, Alderman Ross?
motion to remove the one at Grand Glaze Airport, the fuel truck.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Schuman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that amendment also passes.
Didn't we do roll call votes for all the previous amendments?
Only because I thought there was some conflict And everybody seemed online there. Plus, I'm mayor, I can do what I want.
Whatever.
That too. Tell us how it is.
You just got my vote, sir.
And the last one, which will probably possibly be the most contentious, is the pump truck at the sewer, in the sewer department. I realize the truck is old. I had an extensive conversation with Nathan. The truck's working. $380,000 is what that truck's gonna cost. And in my mind, it would be better served to use that money towards improving the system with pumps and so forth, and waiting at least a year, maybe not more, anymore, depending on what we do with rates and so forth, before we commit to the $380,000. I'd like to see that we wait a year and see that, what we can do with rates and and so forth, to improve the financial situation of the sewer, the sewer department, or the sewer enterprise fund, or whatever you want to call it.
All right, comments or questions, board? Alderman Schuman.
Question. This was for us to purchase an additional, not replace, correct? It was to kind of purchase an additional because we are consistently contracting out pumping. Is that correct?
I wish, but no.
Okay.
This was just gonna be, we need to, but we were just gonna replace it.
All right, Alderman Hoffman.
How old is this vehicle?
This vehicle is a 1996 sewer pump truck. In the last 2 years, we spent just under $23,000 in repairs on the vehicle. And yes, Nathan is enjoying it, but it was repaired right before he got here.
Right, so it's been working for the last 6 months.
It has. We are starting to see some problems with the pump again, but it is currently working, and we are currently using it and not having a whole lot of problems.
Alderman Osteen.
Mike, can you clarify, was this part of the 2023 budget that was presented and we denied it?
We have talked about, we've talked about it,
I
but I don't.
remember discussions about the,
We have, yeah, this is not the first year we've talked about pump truck, but
But we recently purchased one for the sewer department 2 years ago, Mike, or less?
back.
We purchased a
Back pump
hydro
truck.
excavation truck for
Right.
all of Public Works, which is shared between all departments, and it does have the capability to pump sewer as well.
okay. And I remember in budget discussions last year that this was brought up again. And I just want to throw that out there again, that we're just kicking this can down the road another year if we decide to not move forward with this.
Alderman Hoffman.
So is this a type situation where if you order it now, you get it in 2028 type deal, like with a ambulance or a dump truck? Like if we order it, how long do you think it'll take to get it?
If we order it, I'm being told that it would be delivered in the fourth quarter of 2024. So it would be delivered in the current year, but
October, November.
I mean, every other thing that we've ordered this big has ended up taking us 18 months to get. That's just what the vendor that wants to sell me the truck is telling me right now. I'm not so sure that I trust that or not, but that's what he's telling me.
Yeah, my concern is that while I theoretically agree with Alderman Ross, that even that plan, it still ends up taking a year to get the vehicle. And that's what worries me. And I'm not sure if by not spending the money on that vehicle, can we dump it into getting more pumps? And do we have the manpower to put in more pumps? Or are we just, so what's your thought on that, Mike? I mean, because to me, it makes more sense to replace some of the pumps that we know have to be replaced, the 88 of them that are out there, the numbers that you were telling me earlier. I think that money would be better served in that position. However, if we're really not accomplishing more with that money, we don't have the manpower to put in more pumps, it might not make sense.
Can I inject something? So one, let's talk about capital, then I can let you know the cash flow. Right now, sewer is borrowing money from water and getting subsidy from CIT. So when you take out capital, you're really just replacing it back to restricted funds, which is very low. So that would be the immediate cash effect of this particular item going way off the budget.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that we could buy more pumps?
Well, if if you want to add more items to the budget, it'll just take it away from reserves, but, yeah.
Okay.
The bottom line here, as far as I'm concerned, is we're going to spend somewhere between $120,000 and $150,000 on private pumping in 2023. Now, if we have a more reliable pump truck, I'm not saying that we won't spend zero, but maybe we can cut that in half. So if you don't buy this truck in 2023, and 2023 probably won't matter anyway, because we're not going to get it till the end of the year anyway, right?
24.
But, I'm sorry, 2024. But if you don't buy the truck, you're going to spend that money in O&M on pumping services.
Alderman Ross.
I have a couple of concerns with those numbers. So first of all, we've spent, and I have to look at the numbers, around $60,000 we've been invoiced by First Choice so far this year. And there's two large invoices that total somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $24,000 that were specific to Rockaway and the unique situation we had there, where in my mind, we would have had to use them anyway because our single truck wasn't going to keep up. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, but,
Okay.
and that's not what I'm talking about. That's 20, 30,000 of that. I'm talking about all
Right,
of
so
the money
there's
that we
around-
pay Amos or Bullock or First Choice as well. We use several different pumping services here in town. And yes, you're not wrong. Rockaway this year was a huge issue for where we needed that. But we use them on a weekly basis. It's $485 a load.
Right, but that's not necessarily because the truck doesn't work. That's because ideally, we'd have about 3 trucks sitting there in case we had 3 of them going off at the same time. You talked about how we use those other companies because we have more than one overflow many times.
Which is
Right.
why I'm saying that we can't get it down to 0, but we can cut it down. This particular truck was in the shop for 3 months earlier this year. So when it's in the shop for 3 months, it doesn't matter whether I have 1, 2, or 3 sewer overflows, they all got to be stopped.
Sure. Well, you can only do one if it was there. I get that. It's not an easy choice. I get that. We're in a bind at the sewer. I would rather not see us planning to upgrade trucks and put us in more of a bind at this point, because I'm not convinced that we're going to be in any better financial situation because we have a newer truck that's significant. I mean, if this truck was a $75,000 truck, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's a $380,000 truck. That's the challenge. So.
Any other comments from the board? Alderman Osteen.
So if we were to purchase a new truck, would we still retain the existing vehicle as a backup, or would that be sold?
Well, it's budgeted to be sold, but I would love to keep it.
Well, kind of going back to what Ross is stating is perhaps if
I
it's
think
functional.
if we're going to buy it, we'd be better off to keep the other truck and fix it up and make sure that we've got a second one. I wouldn't argue that.
That's kind of where I'm leaning with that.
So do we need to make any budget amendments to keep the second truck?
No, that's just a direction. I mean, it's a little bit of revenue change, but if that's the part of the motion, then.
Can I make a statement real quick?
Please.
So at the last board meeting, we were approved to do a public works assessment, which will start in January and will roughly be done by mid-year. My recommendation would be keep the truck in the budget. Let's get through that assessment. Let's see what that assessment says about our fleet, about our operations. And yes, that means that the truck wouldn't be ordered and probably wouldn't be here till 2024, but it might give the board a little bit better direction on exactly what changes or what operational things need to change at Public Works. And we're not going to have that for another 6 months. So I would be fine with leaving it in the budget, and if the recommendation from that assessment is that we invest in those kind of things, then maybe we move forward with purchasing it later in the year, knowing that it wouldn't show up for another 6 to 8 months. And if the assessment says, no, you don't need that, then we just don't buy it.
Well, and that was the point I was going to make is in the meeting today is keep in mind with the budget, it's earmarked for but not voted on yet. So if you left it in the budget and then it came down to the time in June, that he say, I want to buy this truck, and we look at the situation and we say, hey, we've got more expenses than we thought, then you don't approve it. But you can leave it in the budget for now, so you, should you choose.
I'm good, stand pat. That's all I have, thank you.
All right. Anybody else, any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we talked a little bit about possibly seeing if anybody wanted to make a motion to table this and do a first and second reading at the end of the month, but it's in my opinion, we have, if I'm correct, we have 3 amendments that were voted on and passed by Alderman Hoffman. They were the remove the parking lot at the park, put the 2 jobs back in, and 1 truck removal that were voted on and passed by the board. The other 3 amendments were by Alderman Ross, were to remove the 6, for lack of a better, runoff projects that we've outlined, remove the power lines, and 1 of the trucks at the airport. So those were, I'm sorry?
Street sweeper.
Street sweeper.
The street sweeper.
That one failed.
That one failed, yes.
That amendment failed.
Yeah, that one
Yes.
would keep it.
Street
So
sweeper's
it's
still
just
in.
the 6, the 3 from both, they were all discussed, voted on, and passed. So it would be my recommendation that if somebody so chooses, the first reading, they could make a motion to approve based on those 6 amendments, and then we can move forward with the second reading next.
You will
At the
still
next
get a
meeting.
version 3.
Yeah, yes. So with that being said,
So moved.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? All right. That passes with those 6 amendments. Thank you, everybody. You know, Mr. Tegethoff, Mr. Spiker, I'm happy we moved that
It's a good idea.
first item, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Gina. All right, next we're going to move on to Bill 23-86, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission State Block Grant Agreement for the Lee C. Fine Airport Layout Plan Update Project. First reading, Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We're gonna be a little repetitive here because we're gonna do mine, and then Ty's gonna do the engineering portion, and then we're gonna go to the other airport and we're gonna do the very same thing. So this is a grant that provides the city reimbursement for the engineering services for Lee C. Fine Airport Layout Plan Update. This is something we've been working on for quite a while. Got a little sidetracked because of all of the sewer issues in the park and all of the land issues at the airport, but we're kind of back on track now. The costs in this grant are made up of the city's engineering contract with CMT, which Ty's going to talk about in just a minute, and the cost of the independent fee study required for a project of this size. The budget for this project is $485,000, and again, it is a 90-10 grant, so we are reimbursed 90% of what we spend on this from the FAA. I do recommend approval.
All right, comments from the board, questions? Alderman Ross.
So I just have a question. What is the objective of this, and is it like required every so often?
It's not required. It's not required, but it is recommended, and the FAA has recommended that we update our airport layout plan. The last time the airport layout plan was done was 2002. Almost everything on that plan has been completed with the exception of the item that we just struck from the budget earlier tonight.
Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Schuman, all those in favor?
Aye.
What the heck? My apologies.
I mean, we do have the same hair.
Yeah, you came in late, that's all.
I guess, yeah.
All right, Alderman Osteen, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
In your defense, Tara wrote
I wrote
Schuman
Schuman too.
too.
Sorry, he had
Yeah,
correct.
wow. All right. Moving on to next item, Bill 23-87, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly for consulting services at the Lacey Fine Airport at Airport Layout Plan Update Project for an amount not to exceed $481,000. First reading, again. Ty Dinsdale, you want this one?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is just giving permission for the mayor to execute this contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly, better known as CMT. It's our airport engineering firm that handles all of our engineering for the airport projects. This will allow the mayor to go issue and do a contract with CMT for the airport layout plan not to exceed $481,000. Recommend approval.
Alderman Hoffman.
How come Lacey Fine and Grand Glaze are both $481,000? I would think that surely Lacey Fine's more complicated, is it not?
Not necessarily, not in the grand scheme of things of, of finding out what you need as far as airport development.
The size of the airport doesn't really necessarily.
Not particularly, no, not between these two airports at least, now if you want to throw Lambert or KCI or something in there, yeah, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading? Alderman Hoffman, do I have a second? Alderman Schuman, all those in favor?
You got it right.
What?
I thought you said all in favor.
Oh, no, had a first and a second, yeah, right? Yeah, now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I did it right, I think.
No, I just misheard.
Oh, okay.
That's why I misheard and I said aye early.
Okay.
You're crushing it tonight.
I am.
All right, moving on to Bill 23-88, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission State Block Grant Agreement for Grand Glaze Airport Layout Plan Update Project. First reading. Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is a grant agreement providing the city reimbursement for engineering services at Grand Glaze Airport for a new airport layout plan. Again, this is 90% funded by the FAA. I do recommend approval.
All right, comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross. Second.
Second.
Alderman Morose. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. First reading passes. Moving on to Bill 23-89, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly for consulting services at the Grand Glaze Airport for the Airport Layout Plan Update Project for an amount not to exceed $481,000. First reading. Ty Dinsdale, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is the other contract for the Grand Glaze Airport. This will allow the mayor to enter a contract with CMT in order to spend the block grant money not to exceed $481,000. Recommend
All right,
approval.
thank you. The board have any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Hoffman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Next, we have a motion to approve the purchase of 8 new networking expansion modules and necessary hardware from Forward/Technologies for amount to not to exceed $31,919.44. Gina, do you want this, or Mike Welty? All right,
Mike will take it.
all right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We budgeted to replace multiple network switches this year. This is basically the last piece of replacement of network switches that we're going to have for a few years. The last of our old Juniper network switches are being replaced with this with newer technology. Those switches are more than 12 years old, out of warranty, and they need to go. There's security risks as it stands right now. These are expansion modules which plug directly into the core switch that we already have. I do recommend approval. Approval. Have to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Comments from the board, questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman. Now you got me worried I'm calling the wrong person. You like that? Alderman Rose, seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Last item of business tonight. We have a motion to approve the purchase of multiple sewer pumps from municipal equipment for a not-to-exceed amount of $249,36 plus shipping costs. Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, members of the board. This is for the purchase of 18 pumps for various stations. These are all for lift stations. We have done pressure tests on every one of these stations to ensure that we're putting the right pump into the station. And that's kind of the reason why this is a slow process, just so everybody understands. I know I have said many times that we've got a lot of pumps that we need to replace, but we're trying to do this intelligently. We're trying to make sure that we are checking the pressure on all of these stations rather than just ordering what is in there now. That's a long process that requires us to put a saddle on those lines and do those pressure tests. So these are the 18 that we have ready right now, and these are the ones that I think that we can get here by the end of the year. So when we do our inventory, either at the next meeting or the first meeting in January, we'll probably have another group of them that'll come through here as well. The price tag for this one is $249,036 plus shipping. And again, I'm being told with some assurance that as much as 90% of these will be here by the end of the year. So there may be a small carryover, but I don't think it's going to be that much.
Very good.
I
Thank
recommend
you.
approval.
Comments, questions from the board? Alderman Hoffman.
Mike, are these kind of universal? Do they fit everywhere, or does each pump have like a specific spot where it has to go?
So within the larger lift stations, there are about 12 that share a general pump size, but they may not share the same pump curve. And so they may have slight changes. There are a few that we can interchange, but I'd say about 80% of them-ish are unique to the station that they go in.
Okay. I guess the only thing that kind of worries me is we're buying so many, and then if we, let's just say we buy 12 and 6 of them only fit in one spot, and then we've got an inventory of 3 or 4 pumps that we know we aren't going to use anywhere unless that pump goes out. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me.
Yeah, none of these are for inventory. These all go into a place where we have a broken pump or we have a missing pump. So none of these go into inventory. There are pump slots that these will go into immediately once they get here. I have a spreadsheet that details exactly where each of these pumps go. And you are welcome to come by and see me, and I'll be happy to sit down and show that to you, sir.
Okay. Last question. Does the use of Vapex have any impact on the type of pump that we're using? Because Vapex is kind of new to our system, so I just didn't know if there was if it hindered it in any way with this type of pump, or, I just want to make sure that they kind of gel.
There should be no correlation whatsoever there.
No.
In fact, only one of these pumps is going in the Passover station, which is one of the stations that gets the Vapex, but none of these pumps are for Sands or for 53-1, which is the other one that's proposed to get Vapex.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't buy a bunch of pumps, and then because we started using Vapex, all of a sudden it doesn't seal right or something like that.
Not an issue, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Schuman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Now we're going to move on to staff communications. We'll go with City Administrator Gina Woods, please.
I don't have any update other than we have one more meeting at the end of the year. January, we do have a workshop for the loggers discussion scheduled January 11th. If you have not made comments to Michael Ray that you want to ensure questions are answered, please do so that sooner and later. I know it's just a little over a month away, but with the holidays, I know he's working on that. I know Alderman Ross and I had a lengthy conversation on sewer rates. I'm continue to dig in there, and after our conversation, I'm going to offer, you'll get an email for me, but I think adding a workshop, not a workshop, we already have one extra workshop in January, but adding a discussion, potentially maybe the second meeting in January about rates, and I will give you kind of a preview of what I've come across, and based on once the budget's approved, because these changes will affect that. That'd be kind of a preview there, so be on the lookout for that and kind of keep that going. I know there's a lot of questions about outside city and Tantera, which we will kind of parallel and work that in as those things come to fruition, but getting kind of an idea of what immediate rate changes. So I'll have more information then. That is all I have.
All right, thank you. Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty.
We have a couple of offer letters out for a couple of new sewer employees, so hopefully we'll be filling some spots there. And we're doing some interviews in the transportation department to fill the 2 empty spots that we have there. That's about all that I have.
All right. City Clerk, Tara Barrett.
No, I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
All right, City Attorney.
I don't really have anything to offer that I can offer from up here, but sewer has been consuming quite a bit of our work on a variety of fronts, and if anyone would like an update, just stop by my office, please.
Okay. Chief Davis.
We'll be doing our Shop with a Cop next Tuesday night with about 25 kids at Walmart, so we're looking forward to that. It's always a good time of year, and we can make some kids' Christmas a little bit better. We had 8 interviews today for the evidence custodian position. We had 8 interviews scheduled, and all 8 showed up.
Yay.
That's a record for us.
Yes.
So we'll be making a decision on that this week and getting an offer letter out. We had a offer letter for a police officer signed Monday. He actually graduates the academy on next Thursday night, so Lieutenant Taylor and I will be going down to Joplin for, we'll stop at Buc-ee's on the way for that. And we've got another interview scheduled for police officer, and I believe a background going for a communications officer. So we're slowly getting there.
How's the numbers, 911?
They're still at 7. We've got 1 doing a background on.
Very good.
So
Sounds good.
Nice job, thank you. Yep. Building official, Ron White.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right. Ty Dinsdale, Airport.
Yeah, just a quick update. If you guys remember the storm damage we had out at Lacey Fine last year, and then we approved the contract for the contractor to come out and repair that. They did start yesterday, so we'll get that project completed pretty quick, I hope.
Very good.
That's all I have.
All right. Eric Greger, Parks.
Just a reminder to the public that the Osage Beach Holiday Lights event is going on every evening, 5 to 9 p.m. at City Park, 950 Hatchery Road. Come on out, bring the family. It's a free event. We did add 10 new light displays this year, so bring the family out and enjoy. This will be through December 31st every evening.
All right, thank you. City Treasurer, Carrie Bell. All right. You have anything, sir?
I do, just keeping consistent with the board's move of the meetings to 5:30. I contacted Chairman Ebling of the Planning Commission and asked her if she would be interested in presenting that to the Planning Commission, which she was very excitedly. Heard from all the current members of the Planning Commission back by email, except for Alderman Osteen, unless he's done it in the last few minutes. But I just copied and pasted what he said about the board meeting moving to 5:30, so, in my mind. So we're gonna go ahead and make that change, as of January of 2024.
There you go. Thank you, Carrie.
That is all.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Alderman Shubin.
I don't really have anything tonight. I kind of did and I forgot it, so.
All right. Alderman Hoffman.
I will think of it later.
I just want to thank everyone. I know I've done plenty of budgets in other places, but it's my first experience here. I just want to thank all the effort that everyone put in. Everyone was very detailed, very organized. It actually went a little smoother than I thought it would. So I'm actually very happy and pleased, and I appreciate the extra time that some of you took to bring me up to speed on the process. And secondly, whoever did the Christmas tree right out here did an awesome job. That's a really, really good tree. Well done.
Thank you. Alderman Osteen.
I just have 2 things this evening. First, I would like to recognize Mr. Tom Walker and his many years of service on this board and for the city of Osage Beach. I would like to make sure that we send our heartfelt condolences on his passing to his family and loved ones. My second item is I would like to get an update on our leaf pickup program. Are we on schedule with what has been sent out to the public, or any updates?
The only update I have is we are slightly behind schedule. We had one of the leaf machines is broken, and so it goes into repair. And when those things go into repair, it takes 30, 60 days for us to repair. So we are operating on one right now, and we are trying to keep up. We are just a little bit behind, but we are dedicated and we will get it done.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rose.
Thank you for commenting about Tom. That was one thing on top of my list, because I duly remember when Tom was here on the board. He passed away Thanksgiving week with his family in St. Louis. Secondly, you all cannot imagine, has anybody got the count of how many utility poles we now have on the parkway? I have never seen so many, and they are diligently working hard at it, even at night with spotlights. Anyway, just love that. It's a shame they all can't be underground, but whatever. I'm sure that they're for all the new additions that's going on in our area. Michael, whatever happened, or am I just behind, that Vapex or whatever it is, did that get installed? No.
We expect that it will be delivered sometime late next week.
Okay.
And so I still feel pretty confident we'll have it installed by the end of the year.
How long does that take to get it installed?
Like maybe 2 to 3 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we install it ourselves, and then the trainer comes down and works with us for a couple of days to train on it. So that's all in the works, and we expect to have it installed this year.
Super. Thank you. Lastly, echoing what Justin Hoffman commented about all the hours that our staff has spent, which I mentioned even the last meeting on the budget, and it's trying, and I can't imagine being responsible for it. But we appreciate all the hours that everybody's been going forward with it. And I'd like to thank Alderman Hoffman and Alderman Ross for a lot of legwork that you guys have been doing this past week or so, or hours that you put, whether it be meetings or out in the field. But anyway, appreciate the time that you guys have been putting in too. And other than that, we'll see you at the next meeting. Glad you could show up, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ross.
So first, welcome back, Eric. I hope you had a phenomenal trip.
Oh, that's right.
I did. Was as much as you expected?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Glad you're back. Tom Walker, I just got to say, he was great to work with. He was awful quiet, but if you get him off to the side and have some conversations, he definitely had opinions. And he was a sharp guy. And I really enjoyed working with Tom through not only here, but at Rotary. Recognition, I'm not sure to who, but the lights out front that were the different colored lights on the poles. I don't know if that's...
Doug Damron takes care of that, and he is the one who assembled the tree and decorated it as well.
Okay, both jobs, awesome. Looks great.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank everyone for their patience around budget and all of my questions and challenging thoughts and so forth. I appreciate everyone wanting to be helpful and be matter of fact about it. And then lastly, I want to make sure over at Nick's True Value Hardware, we have Candyland, and there's probably still at least 50 to 70 canes over there of kids that could use someone to help them out with Christmas. So if you have some time, it'll be, I think we've got about
December 15th is the cutoff.
2 weeks.
15th.
Yeah. And before that's helpful, because I've been involved a couple of times where, we had to go shop on the ending day for 60 or 75 kids on one day, and that's a little crazy. And the less the outlet malls open, the harder that is. I'll put it to you that way, because we have less choices locally. So, because there becomes a time crunch. So anyway, if you want to help out, that would be great. But we've still got some kids in need. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I only have three quick things. First thing is, it's almost 8 o'clock, but just think here in 2 meetings from now, after a nice productive meeting, it'll only be 7:30.
Awesome.
So, that'd be nice. The other thing, Kim and I had a very unique opportunity this last week to join some other business officials and the governor, the attorney general, and at a dinner, very nice dinner. Kim was nervous as heck because all these highfalutin peoples. But Jeff Tegetoff invited us as the city of Osage Beach growing, and they had a representative from Lee Summit and a couple other places, but there's only a party of about 20 people. And we sat around and talked, and they just praised the heck out of our town. And of course, Jeff Tegetoff, was letting know what he's doing there. But I just wanted you to know that the staff and the aldermen, the governor, the attorney general, they know who we are. And we are on the map. And developers wanting to come here. And we have a lot of good things going. And I know this budget process was difficult and new. And Alderman Hoffman, I know, apologized for asking a lot of questions, but I do too. And a lot of times you sit in meetings, and I said from the very beginning, a lot of times I'll sit in a meeting and ask a question, and you'll look around the table, and somebody will tell me later that they've been here for years. They didn't know the answer either, but they were too afraid to ask the question. So don't be afraid to ask the question. So appreciate it. So don't take anything personal. It's all for the better good for the city, and we may not agree on everything, but then you move forward on the next item. And the only other thing I have on a positive note, if you're not doing anything this Saturday, is not in Osage Beach, but the Lake of the Ozark Christmas parade. Neat event. The cheese store and his mayor were going to be there, and we have that big mouse. And 2 weeks ago, they said it was supposed to be 65 degrees and sunny, and then all of a sudden it went to 30 degrees and rainy. I don't think they know, but the weather is supposed to be very, very nice. We're not doing anything. It does start at 1 o'clock sharp. Line up 11:30, but bring the kids down. They do throw candy. It'd be a great event. So, and that's all I have. So with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Alderman Hoffman, second. Alderman Schuman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Like at 7:56.
Okay.
7:55 for a budget.
Good job, Richard.
Thank you.